Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were controversial remakes to a fan favourite generation of games. In today's video, I'll be playing through the game on a brand new save file, exploring all unique features the games have to offer, and of course, shiny hunting. All just to answer the question, were these games truly that bad? But with that all being said, let's get straight into it. As I'm sure many of you know, these games are 100% faithful to the original Diamond and Pearl games, but unlike other modern remakes such as Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, we get this chibi style look instead of a full HD aesthetic. We follow our rival to the lake where we get to pick the best starter Pokemon of all time. Coincidentally, our Chimchar is a female, which has only a 10% chance of occurring. Chimchar and its evolution line will be carrying us through the vast majority of this game. However, to take on the full Pokemon experience, we do catch other Pokemon along the way. We finally arrive at the first gym, hoping that Chimchar will be able to carry us through it, which he manages to do so incredibly well using Power Up Punch. Of course, we then evolve into Monferno, which would have been much more helpful early. We smash our way through the first gym, clear out the Valley Windworks, and push on forward until we finally reach Hearthome City. This is where we find the first major difference in these remakes compared to the original games: the Grand Underground. While the Grand Underground was in the original game, there are a lot of new features here to explore. The digging feature makes a return where we can now dig up statues. These can be placed within our secret bases to increase the spawn rates of different types of Pokemon. Speaking of Pokemon, they can now spawn in the Grand Underground in these different rooms. Here we can find Pokemon you otherwise wouldn't be able to find until much later on in the game, with each room also containing different rare spawns. This is a great way to create a more diversified team early on instead of using the regular Starly and Shinx or Weasel type of team that we probably all used as kids. These Pokemon can be quite high level for the first time we visit the Underground, but some have a really low catch rate which makes things difficult. The further we progress into the game and progress our Pokédex, the more Pokemon become available here, which is helpful for your national decks later on. Overall, it's a pretty engaging addition to the game and a positive change. There's also a shiny mechanic down here. These Diglett spawn, which can grant you 1 point, Dugtrio for 3 points. Upon maxing out this gauge, you get a quote that appears saying something good will happen. Now what this means is your shiny odds double. Sounds great, right? However, your shiny odds only double for 4 minutes, shinies do not appear in the overworld, and with each encounter taking roughly 30 seconds. Realistically, at most you're probably getting 8 encounters during this time. 8 encounters at 1 in 2,000 odds roughly isn't great, but more on shinies later. Resurfacing from the Underground, we now have a much more interesting team, one that ended up becoming very physically offensive and caused us a lot of problems. We use this team, well, mainly Monferno, to clear out the second gym. We clear out Team Galactic and receive the bike. Using the bike allows us to get to our next destination a lot quicker, Hearthome City. There's a few different things we can now do in Hearthome City. First things first, we grab the Puffin case, which will come in handy in a little while. We then head over to the contest hall. Unfortunately, a lot of features were actually removed from the contest feature. Now all that's left is just this rhythm game. I guess it's a fun little side thing you can do, but there's really not a whole lot to it. We experiment with the capsule decoration system, just to add a bit more flair during the contest. The main barrier to actually winning the contest is related to Puffins. By turning our berries into Puffins, we create one of 5 flavours. As you can imagine, this then increases one of the 5 stats, which relate to the 5 contest categories. In Hearthome City, we also have the park. This allows us to walk freely with our Pokemon in the overworld, which we can then do for the rest of the game. Fortunately, it's very clunky in this game, the Pokemon don't follow you too well and they get stuck on everything, but it's nice to have. Something else I wanted to touch on in this game is the gym leaders. Gym leaders in this game utilise held items a lot more effectively, more diverse move pools, and almost always have a Pokemon that's capable of sweeping your whole team if you don't go in prepared. Mayleen's Lucario showed me exactly what that means. However, then on my second attempt, we just sort of spammed acrobatics and ended up beating her without an issue. It was sort of just good RNG, but it did go to show if you're not prepared, you will lose these battles. We pick up the third badge and progress over to the Great Marsh. Go figure, this is exactly the same as it is in Diamond and Pearl, and it's effectively this game's version of the Safari Zone. When throwing a ball at a Pokemon, there's a set chance they will flee or stay, which creates this fun little minigame, or frustrating depending how you want to look at it, surrounding catching Pokemon. There are certain Pokemon, however, that only spawn if you can see them in the binoculars upstairs. This is also extremely annoying when you're completing your Pokédex. Pushing forward, we defeat Crash Awake and obtain the 4th badge, before then finally moving the Psyduck out of the way, utilising the secret medicine. Now, I don't want to touch on this game's story too much, because once again this is left unchanged to the original games, so there's not a whole lot to comment on. However, if you have never played them before, I'd say the story overall lands itself in the middle of the road. What complements this game's story is Legends Arceus. It expands on a lot of concepts touched on here, and delves a bit deeper into the game's lore, so just an FYI if you're thinking about playing. Our 5th gym badge finds its way into our hands, but we struggle a lot against the 6th gym leader. Now you might be thinking you have Inferno, this should be a piece of cake. Well, it would be, if my whole moveset wasn't physically offensive. If you didn't know, Steel-type Pokemon have incredibly high defense as a base stat, and while Bronzor doesn't give us any issue, Steelix certainly does. We struggle to take it down in one hit, and with it having access to the move Earthquake, it can one-shot our Inferno in counter. Luckily we have Gligar, that doesn't have a single ground-type move yet, and right when we get close to defeating him, the Full Restore comes in. GG. As you can see from my team, outside of those 2 Pokemon, we really didn't have much of an answer to this gym, and even if we close combat with Inferno, as the Steelix has Sturdy, we still aren't able to one-shot it with Inferno. We eventually find our way past it, but then we're left with Bastiodon. If Inferno doesn't live to this part of the fight, there is even less we can do to win. But changing up a bit of our strategy, after proccing Steelix's Sturdy using a different one before sending Inferno in, we're able to clear this gym pretty easily. We then take a trip over to Legends Arceus to evolve 3 of our team members. While this is technically possible to do within BDSP, most of these items are locked either really late in the game or completely in the post game, meaning we wouldn't be able to get ourselves a Glide score until beating the Elite Four. Also, some of the items require you to trade the Pokemon for it to evolve, so connecting to Legends Arceus through home is just a simple solution to doing this. We also do a Mon Junior outbreak while we're here, but get no luck. We test out our newly evolved Pokemon against Team Galactic, allowing us to get closer to the final part of the game. 7th gym poses no threat to Inferno, and we run through it really quick. While I was evolving my Pokemon in Legends, I also decided to complete the Sinnoh Dex by moving my Pokemon in from home. This gives us the National Dex, which we'll need to get the Shiny Charm later on, and we also get the Poke Radar. Before we commence our shiny hunt, I decided to complete the National Dex in order to get the Shiny Charm ahead of time. However, strangely enough, these games have 2 Pokemon you are strictly not allowed to move in from home. These are Nincada and Spinder. Essentially, there are coding bugs that make them seem like cloned Pokemon. Instead of fixing the issue, they straight up just ban you from moving them in. Really good effort there. We can use the new Poke Radar we just collected to take care of Nincada in Eterna Forest, leaving us all but 1 Pokemon left to collect. I did everything I could to try and get my hands on one, including entering different trade rooms, looking through my boxes in Pokemon Shining Pearl, but I just couldn't find anything. The only legitimate way to acquire Spinder in these games is through swarms, which only unlocks in the post game. Hypothetically, this could take weeks, if not months, in order for the Spinder outbreak to appear. We cut our losses for the time being and progress forward with this story. Upon releasing the Lake Trio, we get contacted by a man named Kevin. Kevin stopped everything he was doing in order to hop on to BDSP and trade me this Spinder. If you're still watching this far in, make sure to leave a comment saying thank you to Kevin. Seriously, this was a huge help and I don't know how I would have got around this problem without him. Finally, we're able to collect the Shiny Charm, which increases our shiny odds dramatically. However, fun fact, we're going to be doing a Poke Radar hunt, so it turns out the Shiny Charm doesn't affect Poke Radar. But how does it work anyway? Well, a quick explanation if you don't already know. When you use the Poke Radar, 4 patches of grass will start shaking. Encounter one of these Pokemon to begin your chain. By knocking out or catching the Pokemon, your chain has a chance to continue. Each time you increase your chain, you also increase your shiny odds. For the best odds, we want to get to a chain of 40 for a 1 in 99 chance for one of these 4 patches to be shiny. However, assuming you do everything right, the chain has a 7% chance of breaking no matter what, which looks like this. And there goes the chain. Statistically, you only have a 5% chance of your chain reaching 40. Some people argue it's best to stop at 20 or 30 and just reset at higher odds, but let's be honest, that's not as entertaining for a video, so we're going to go for a 40 chain. Here's how it went. Oh, bro. Read the second one. Bro, you can't make it up. Who wrote this script? 3. I got 3. I'm really curious, can I actually encounter this path? No, so you're telling me there's a chance. Wait. Huh? No. How many? How many? Okay, so this will be number 30, which takes us to 1 in 1310, so around Shiny Charm. Okay, number 35. Look, we're not out of the woods yet. Oh, bro, whoa. Oh, 34. Okay, this is number 40, this is the last one. So we can only hope the chain carries on after this one. Oh my god, I'm actually gonna throw, bro. Okay. Please, 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 if there is a god. Come on, and... Oh, we did it. Okay. So we're at our 40 chain now, which means now we just need to run back and forth until it shows up. Oh, and there it is. Oh my god, that looks so good. Hey, for the content, we have to. That is honestly one of the most satisfying trainings I've had in a while. I know full odds hunters right now are probably livid how much I'm complaining, but I'm used to the Legends Arceus grind. But now the question. Okay, of course the chat. We add our final member of the team to the party and immediately set out to finish the game. At the top of Mount Coronite, we can wrap up the final part of the Team Galactic story. Of course, we have to use Nidoran in some of these battles, although its impact in his fights are limited to say the very least. We knock out Dialga because, well, I'm lazy, before heading over to our final gym battle and collecting the badge, of course. We take a quick pause to freshen up our capsules, before finally reaching the pinnacle of the story, the Elite Four. One final battle with our rival sees a quick victory, and we then pass the point of no return and begin what I believe to be the hardest Elite Four out of any Pokemon game in the history of the franchise. First, we need to defeat the Bug-type specialist Aaron. This was the easiest of all of them by far. Gliscor is able to just spam acrobatics to defeat everything. Strapion puts up a bit more resistance, but 2 Earthquakes still get the job done. Next we have Bertha, who uses ground types. We start off by knocking out Quagsire using Grass Knot. However, Whiscash takes absolutely 0 damage from this. I got a bit worried thinking we didn't really have a whole lot of answers to this team. However, setting up a Swords Dance with Gallade allowed us to pretty much sweep the majority of the team utilising Drain Punch. Assuming Golem has Sturdy, we try and proc that with a Psycho Cut, but take a lot of damage in the process. We swap over to Gliscor for its ground type immunity, and take it out with an Earthquake. We discover Hippowdon has Ice Fang, so we immediately U-turn out. However, so it turns out Rampardos, at least my Rampardos, is slower than every single Pokemon in the game. We continue just trying out different things till we eventually get Hippowdon low enough to the point where Bertha uses a full restore. Running out of ideas, we swap into Nidoran to revive Inferno. We use a Grass Knot which one-shots it immediately. I could have just done that from the start, so it turns out, but it's a learning moment. Next up we have Flint, the Fire-type specialist. Funny thing about Flint in this game is that he doesn't really have a Fire-type team. The main reason for that is there isn't a whole lot of Fire-types in Sinnoh. Gliscor makes quick work of the first 2 Pokemon, and then we swap into Gallade, where once again we're able to set up using Swords Dance. We have this long back and forth with Drifloon as he keeps burning us, which reduces our attack. Eventually he swaps into Infernape, which absolutely gets destroyed by a Psycho Cut. Drifloon comes back in. Anticipating a full restore, we just go for another Swords Dance to continue buffing our attack as high as possible, and manage to get the KO. The final member of the Elite Four we need to beat is Lucian. Now, I didn't expect this, but we struggled on this one way more than anything else. I'm only going to show you the successful attempt at beating him, as this took a lot of strategy, reorganising moves, things of that nature. So when Mr. Mime comes in, he pretty much always sets up a Reflect. Now remember earlier when I said my whole team is pretty much physically offensive? Yeah, that caused a lot of problems. Plus that paired with the fact that I didn't have any super effective moves against this team, meant that with no way to remove Mr. Mime quickly, we sort of had to stall for time until Reflect wear out. Medicham then comes in, which we're not quite able to one-shot. It hits us with an Ice Punch. As you can see, I was about to reset. However, due to the friendship mechanic in this game, Gliscor lives on 1 HP and is able to take it out. Then comes in Alakazam. Alakazam has access to Nasty Plot. If it sets this up, it runs through our whole team as it outspeeds everything and is capable of one-shotting every single member of the team. We U-turn out, which ends up baiting the full restore. The plan here was just to sack Infernape, swap back into Gliscor and take Alakazam out that way. However, thanks to the friendship mechanic, we survive this hit again, which activates Infernape's Blaze ability, causing Flamewheel to take it out. Joffrey comes in, so we U-turn out, and unfortunately have to sack Nidoran in order to get some healing. Gliscor comes back in and takes yet another Pokemon down, and then swap into Electivire. Now something incredible happened here. So that friendship mechanic that already saved this run twice, procced 3 times in a row. This allowed us to take Lucian down with the most perfect RNG I've ever seen in my life. If anyone out there can calculate what the odds are of this happening, I would greatly appreciate it. However, we can't quite say we've beaten the Elite Four until we beat the champion, Cynthia. Now Cynthia is my favourite champion of all time, and her team is by far one of the most diverse and hardest to get around. She seemingly has an answer to everything, and unless you come in prepared or over leveled, you're going to struggle a lot. Cynthia leads by sending out Spiritomb, a Pokemon that is only weak to Fairy type, which we don't have access to. It's an incredibly bulky Pokemon that can output a lot of damage, so it's a really tough hurdle to overcome. We actually lead the fight using Nidoran. She's actually faster than Spiritomb and is able to set up a Toxic Spike. Gliscor was our best option to defeat Spiritomb, so we use an X attack to give us a buff, hit it with an Earthquake for good damage, hit it once again proccing its Citrus Berry, and once again saved by the friendship mechanic of this game. This stroke of good luck helps us to take out Spiritomb, but now in comes Milotic, who I would argue is even more annoying to deal with this team. So we get the poison, however due to Milotic's ability, it doesn't take damage from poison and also gains a defense boost from being afflicted with a status condition. Luckily Milotic doesn't get taken down low enough for Cynthia to use a full restore. Electivire is then able to take it out quickly with a Thunder Punch. Gaston comes in, which I assume will be quick work for Infernape using Grass Knot, but it actually takes no damage. We heal up Gliscor while we can, before sending Gallade in to try and set up. Rocktoon doesn't do much damage at all, so we're able to get a free Sword Stance and take it out with a Drain Punch. Roserade also then comes in, and after tanking a hit, we can then take it out instantly with a Psycho Cut. Lucario outspeeds us, so we're unable to get the kill here, and if you let it set up, it will also pretty much outspeed my whole team and one-shot everything. It tries to do exactly that, but with a lucky critical hit, we're able to take it down. And finally Garchomp. Now typically when Garchomp comes in, it will use turn 1 to set up Sword Stance, once again to sweep the whole team. Hoping it does just that, we send Rampardos in, as if we land Avalanche on Garchomp, it should one-shot. Of course it doesn't set up and instead it just takes us out. We send Gliscor in and after another incredibly long back and forth, spamming Earthquake and Acrobatics, we finally take Cynthia down. Now let's get to the conclusion. What do I think about the game? Look, there's absolutely no doubt that this isn't the remake we hoped for one of the most beloved generations in Pokemon history. For me, Diamond and Pearl were the games I played growing up, and I can't lie, I was part of the group of people that were disappointed in this remake when it came out. Even though we got Pokemon Legends Arceus, I don't think that excuses the lack of quality in this game. But at the end of the day, the game is still fun. Don't get me wrong, I will always find every Pokemon game enjoyable, no matter how bad it is. But with that being said, this was still a great way for me to re-experience part of my childhood, and I can absolutely not defend bugs and lack of polish, or the fact that they completely handed this game over to a third party to make. But is the game really that bad? I don't think so. We're 2 years on now, so it's a bit easier to look at this game in hindsight and see it for what it was probably intended to be. A short game to pick up, have fun, and swap over to Legends Arceus when it came out. This video took a lot of time to put together, from spending the whole weekend playing through and shiny hunting, to all the extra hours I've spent editing and cutting up the footage. If you did enjoy this video, I'd greatly appreciate you to like and comment down below, or even stick around if you want to see more of this type of content in the future. Thanks for watching.